Today on Legally Us, Lizzo fires back at her dancers, Leah Remini takes on Scientology, and Lisa Vanderpump is sued for nearly $1 million. We've got that plus so much more on today's Legally Us. And welcome to Legally Us. I'm Scheana. That's, of course, Neama Rahmani, President and CEO of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Hi, Neama. How are you?
Hi, Scheana. How's it going?
Good. I know that you guys have been super busy with the Lizzo news, and this has gotten a lot of people talking. So let's get right into it. The latest. So the three dancers that have sued Lizzo aren't really impressed with her response to their lawsuit. So Ariana Davis, Crystal Williams, and Noel Rodriguez, they all spoke out and said Williams argued that Lizzo's response solidifies the pattern of what she and her fellow dancers allegedly experienced while working with her, saying we are constantly being gaslit and she's constantly deflecting. So Lizzo did speak out and she responded in a lengthy Instagram statement. I won't read the whole thing, but she said that it was false and unbelievable, these accusations, saying these sensationalized stories are coming from former employees who have already publicly admitted that they were told their behavior on tour was inappropriate and unprofessional. As an artist, I have always been very passionate about what I do. I take my music and my performances seriously because at the end of the day, I only want to put out the best art that represents me and my fans. She said that she's not a villain and that she was hurt by this. So what was your initial reaction to Lizzo's response?
Well, Scheana, when you and I spoke during Legally Us last week, I said this is going to go in one of two directions. Either Lizzo was going to come out, apologize, try to make things right, and maybe we would come to some sort of resolution, or more likely that she was going to deny the allegations. And that's exactly what happened. But just because people deny something doesn't mean it's not true. And civil and criminal defendants do it all the time. So in this particular case, we're seeing witnesses come forward every single day that are supporting our client's allegation. These are individuals that might want to become part of the lawsuit, or people that don't want to be a part of the lawsuit, but are witnesses, or just folks that are just saying anonymously that, yes, the same thing happened to me. It's very similar to the Me Too movement. Now, in response to Lizzo's allegations, what I'll say is this, the folks that were allegedly behaving inappropriately, those were just the Blac dancers. And these aren't all disgruntled fired employees. Noel, one of our clients, quit when she saw how the other two were being treated. And this is someone that had danced with Beyonce, Janet Jackson, Lady Gaga. She has a lot of experience, and no one has treated her like Lizzo has.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like these women are being gaslit after reading that statement?
I do, Scheana. And that's, something that excites me as a lawyer, because that's what judges and juries are for. We're looking forward to presenting our case in a public courtroom to a jury of our peers, and they're the ones who are going to decide who's telling the truth and who's not. And what I like to say is, and we've seen this in different types of sexual assault, sexual abuse cases, there might be one victim who's lying, but when you have 2, 3, 4, and the victims keep coming forward, they tend to be telling the truth.
Yeah. If you were Lizzo and Lizzo's legal team right now, would you be worried? Because like you said, so many other people are now coming forward.
I would be worried. And we just heard this week that, concerts are canceling Lizzo because of her statement and these allegations. So, sometimes people's initial reaction is just to deny. My kids do that all the time when they're accused of something, but that doesn't mean that's the right legal strategy or even the right PR move.
Yeah. Now, do these dancers, want Lizzo to be quote unquote canceled, or what are they hoping for in the future for Lizzo?
They didn't. What they wanted is, for her to make things right and not double down on the unlawful behavior. So, again, I don't know who's advising her, whether it's her PR folks or her legal folks, but sometimes the best thing to do is to admit you're wrong, try to correct the course going forward, because, it's just going to be more and more evidence that comes out as there's more press on this, more witnesses come forward. We've seen a lot of people come out on social media and support our clients.
Right. No, definitely. Has Lizzo filed any legal follow-ups? Would she file any legal follow-ups in this matter? And what are kind of the next steps?
We haven't received anything yet. She has hired Marty Singer, who represents a lot of these Hollywood celebrities. He's representing Olivia Wilde and Jason Sudeikis. That's one of our cases. I've previously litigated against him. So, she's lawyered up. He's a good lawyer, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in court. But, there hasn't been a whole lot aside from that public statement that she put out last week.
Got it. So you feel like this will go to trial and probably not settle?
I think so, unless there's a dramatic turn and she does a 180 and really treats this case differently. This isn't the type of case that denial is going to work, because if she continues to do so, she's going to have to explain herself in a courtroom.
Interesting. It's going to get very interesting in the next few weeks. And I wish you nothing but good luck, Neama. Good vibes.
Thanks, Christina.
All right. Well, Lisa Vanderpump, her husband, Ken Todd, has been hit with nearly $1 million lawsuit for allegedly breaching his rental contract with the landlords of the couple's now closed Pump restaurant. So the company, called 8948 Santa Monica Partners, claims that Pump has failed and refused and continues to fail and refuse to keep and perform their lease conditions. Now, this is all according to documents that were obtained by Page Six. They are suing for $950,000 in damages after claiming Pump owes them roughly $250,000 in unpaid rent, $150,000 for their liquor license, and $50,000 in stolen fixtures. So the company has demanded $750,000 in damages for the alleged breach of contract and an additional $200,000 for allegedly not transferring over the liquor license, which was a value for $150,000. So Pump was supposed to turn the liquor license over. They didn't. And so they surrendered the property back in July. So this is a bit confusing because it was a rental property. So wouldn't it be the new company's responsibility to get a new liquor license, or does that just kind of fold over to the new owners?
Yeah, so there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Really, the terms of that commercial lease are going to control. So, there's three items of damages that are being alleged. So the Vanderpumps were renters; they didn't own the property. So this is here in West Hollywood, a few miles from where I live. Actually, by the side, my wife's aunt is actually the mayor of West Hollywood, so I know the city really well. So when you're talking about a commercial lease, and if you terminate it early, you do owe that rent for the remainder of the lease. Now, the landlord has a duty to mitigate damage. That means to try to re-rent it, which it seems like they have, but they can collect the difference or the rent for any period where the property was vacant. Mm-hmm. Now, when you're dealing with liquor licenses, usually they're part of the property. You can't take your liquor license from Pump or Sur and just take it somewhere else. It's really, oftentimes it's grandfathered in, but it's really attached to the property itself, not with the renter. So obviously whoever rents that property is a prime location there on Santa Monica Boulevard in WeHo. They're going to want that liquor license because we know that restaurants, they make the majority of their income from beverage sales, including alcohol. And then the last issue are what we call fixtures. So there's a difference between furniture, things that aren't attached. You can take that with you if you're a tenant. So tables, chairs, those types of things. But if something's actually attached to the property, let's say a bar, for instance, that has to stay. So that's the difference between what tenants can take. And this is what applies to residential and commercial tenants. They can't take fixtures, but they can take other personal property that isn't attached.
Got it. So I think what they were talking about were either like lamps or fans or something like that. So if they wanted to take those and replace it with something else, could they have done that? So
it depends what it is. If it's like a fixture in the ceiling, it's attached, a fan, some sort of light fixture, that if it's physically attached, it has to stay generally. And if it's not, let's say it's a standing lamp or something, it can be taken. But sometimes, the lease will really carve out, this is part of the tenant's property and this is the landlord. So, absent any specifications as to what's a fixture and what's personal property, that's the general rule that applies. But otherwise, the parties can contract to say, hey, this belongs to the landlord and this belongs to the tenant.
Will Ken have to pay up?
Probably, if the landlord's allegations are true, again, commercial tenants have a lot less protection than residential tenants. And a lot of them, especially restaurants, really took a huge hit during COVID. So a lot of restaurants went under. I'm not saying that's the reason Pump has financial problems, but it's a very expensive part of town. I'm sure they were paying a lot of money per square foot, and there's really not a whole lot of defenses. So if I had to bet, I would bet on the landlord in this case.
All right. Well, moving on to Leah Remini, because she had a bombshell lawsuit against the Church of Scientology. As we know, that she has been going after the Church of Scientology for quite some time, but she claimed that Anderson Cooper and Conan O'Brien were threatened by the church after airing content about the organization. So according to the documents, Anderson allegedly warned Leah that their interview might not air. He claimed that he was previously aired footage about Scientology after it was aired, he faced attacks from the Office of Special Affairs, which is the department of the church, and his team might not be willing to face a new storm of harassment. So in 2010, he aired a 5-part series about Scientology, about a history of violence, about the alleged physical abuse being done by the organization's leader, David Miscavige. And since the series was broadcasted, he has not done another story about the church and Scientology. So she goes on to say that Conan O'Brien pretty much had the same thing, and that that the church and Scientology is trying to destroy her life, basically. So she says that her loved ones have been stalked and threatened by Scientology since her exit. And, she's had documentaries on this. She has had series about this as well. And the Church of Scientology told us that this lawsuit is ludicrous and the allegations are pure lunacy. So do you really think that the Church of Scientology will settle this? Will this go to trial? I feel like she's kind of waged a war against this church for quite some time.
Yeah, Leah has really fought the Church of Scientology for quite some time. She's done documentaries, interviews. I don't think the case will go to trial. And the reason I'm saying that is, the Danny Masterson case, which really a lot of the victims in that case blame the Church of Scientology for trying to cover up the alleged rape. The church really tried to take itself out of that case because we know that trials in this country are public, and I don't think the Church of Scientology wants the press in this case. They've gotten a lot of bad press in legal cases. So I think they'll do everything they can to try to get out of this case. Maybe they'll resolve it. But of course, that's going to be up to Leah. If the church can't get the case dismissed, if there's going to be some sort of settlement, that's something that she's going to have to agree to.
Right.
With respect to Anderson Cooper and Conan O'Brien, that's a little bit different because, obviously Leah can raise claims regarding herself, emotional distress, stalking, and that type of thing. But she can't generally raise claims on behalf of other people. That's a standing issue. Obviously, if Anderson Cooper or Conan O'Brien wanted to join the lawsuit as plaintiffs, they could, and they can make their own claims. But generally speaking, unless you're in a special position, such as a parent or a child, and that, or you're a guardian, for instance, the Britney Spears situation, you generally can't raise claims on behalf of someone else. That would require Anderson Cooper or Conan O'Brien to do so.
So would she have had to give them a heads up that she was going to mention their names in this?
No, she wouldn't necessarily have to if they're just witnesses in the case. She can identify them in the complaint. But for them to actually have a claim, get damages, pursue a case, they would have to sign on as plaintiffs themselves.
Got it. I mean, how difficult is it to take on, a church? I mean, it's like a whole religion.
Well, yeah, a lot of folks in Hollywood have come out and they've said that the church is very powerful. The folks that work for the church are very aggressive in litigating these types of cases. They have good lawyers, but they did lose, at least in the Masterson case. They really tried to keep the Church of Scientology out of the case. The judge ruled against them. That was a unique case because the victims, again, did blame the church. They were members of the church, and they argued, at least to that judge, that the church required them to report to the church and not to law enforcement. And that was the explanation why in the Masterson case they didn't report it to law enforcement, or at least didn't right away. So if it's relevant, again, depending on the judge will keep the Church of Scientology in the case.
Got it. Do you think that this could open doors for other people to bring lawsuits against the Church of Scientology?
It certainly can. And, we know that the church has been aggressive, but we also know that former members have also been aggressive in litigating against the church. So this is an area where I wouldn't be surprised if we saw future lawsuits going forward.
Yeah, well, should be interesting. Definitely. Well, Neama, thank you so much. As always, lots of interesting cases this week, and always great to get your expertise.
Thanks so much, Christina. I'll see you next week on Legally Us.
For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.